Face profiling is a primary assessment tool in knowing your dominant energy type. Let's take a look at the type 3 rich, dynamic woman's face. It's important to remember when you're using the tool of facial profiling to first look at the whole face. What's the expression of the movement of a type 3 woman's face when you just look at the whole face?
I think of it as taking a step back because you're like, oh, look at her eyes. It's like, okay, first of all, take a step back. And when you're in person with somebody or yourself, like you're looking at the body language too. You're really getting a good vibe of the movement. What's the overall movement of the type 3 woman? Let's pull up all the women we're going to profile today, and you can describe that overall movement.
Deeper facial lines, texture, substance. There's a quality of intensity in it. There's triangles, V's. There's
an element of
asymmetrical quality. You can see that when I smile. One side of my mouth pulls up. It creates women will use the reference to crooked. Because we're shown again and again, the type 3 woman's face is not anything you see in the beauty industry, typically, unless it's been highly edited in the photoshopping and such, because the real face has a lot of movement. It's very dynamic movement. Yeah. Let's look at Veronica. The thing you're going to see consistently with type 3 women's eyes is an intensity in them. This is created by the fact that they're set on a V. You could go from the outer point of the eye down through the middle of the eye. It will go slightly downward to the nose bridge, then back up through the other eye, creating...
And in Veronica, there's an asymmetry in her eyes. One of her eyes goes up more, but where I often see it too is the inner points of the eyes. Look how deep her inner points
they're deep angles.
They're deep. They extend further than like as a type 2. I don't have that deep angle in the inner point of my eye.
You also see it with the eyebrow. It's a swift, more intense movement from the inside of the eyebrow, creating an arc, moving slightly downward that creates a more what I call sort of a fierce quality to a type 3 woman's eyes.
And in her, you can see the inner point like I pointed out, and then the eyebrow kind of takes right off of that inner point, and so it creates those angles right there. You can also see the lines and added texture around her eyes, which is a very common feature in type 3. The difference of that compared to like a type 1 is that they'll just be a little bit deeper. They could move in every which way, creating more movement.
A lot more texture. It creates a quality of texture. A real classic movement also is these deeper nasal label fold lines, which are the strong indentations around each side of the mouth, creating deep V's on their side.
You can also see again an asymmetry where on the right side of her face it has a deeper line on the top of her mouth, and on the left side it has a deeper line on the bottom. So just creating that movement and dynamic quality. You can also look at the angles created on her nose, the underneath her nose, and the notches in her nostril create angles. A lot of angles around her nose. Let's look at her after. She got a lot of sass in that after, showing off her intensity.
The thing I love about the after, when a type 3 woman dresses her truth, it really, interestingly, even though she's putting that intensity on her body, it really softens the facial features.
You're adding the movement to the high movement, and it's having a softening quality.
We see in Melissa those deep inner points in the eyes. Again, the eyebrow moving swiftly up. Even the brow bone has that. It's closer to the eye, making a swift upward movement. And a real classic feature we see repeatedly in type 3 women is multiple smile lines. That means when we smile, we have a lot of lines that repeat after the labial navel fold line. Multiple smile lines that create a quality of texture. You can see that her mouth also, when she smiles, is sort of tilted a bit, set on an angle. And you can see in her eyes that more fierce quality, and her eyes are set on a V.
They're also more deep set, which can be a quality of type 3s. Not all type 3s will have deep set, and if you have deep set eyes, that doesn't mean that you're a type 3. But that is a quality of type 3 because it creates a more exotic, deepened quality. And her after, you can see the substance in her smile. Her smile is big. It also creates those deeper points on the sides of her mouth when she smiles. And you can also see those multiple smile lines extended there. Mm-hmm. And the lines around her eyes moving every which way, up and down and all around, adding that movement. Next, let's look at Mary. She has a classic type 3, what we call lump of clay nose.
A lump of clay nose just means that it's broader. There's more flesh to it.
More substance.
More substance. It's larger. And
you can see there are angles created on the top of the nose, and the whole nose comes to an angle or a triangle. The outline of the nose creates a triangle.
She also has the V shape under her cheeks. Mm-hmm. She also has the quality in her eyes that creates more intensity with more movement between the eyes and the deeper points in the inner eye, and her eyes are set on a V.
You can also see the type 3 scowl lines between the eyes. That's a classic feature. And on the sides of her face, you can see how her cheekbone is more chiseled, and so it creates an angle on the side of the face and all along down through the jawline, like you pointed out. Mm-hmm. Let's look at her after. You can see how her dynamic features really come to life. You can see the more angles featured in her nose, and how we often see with type 3 is a very dynamic eye color that you didn't notice in her before, and now it's really coming forward, creating an exotic quality.
She has an expression when she's dressing her truth that's referred to in our world as hot.
Mm-hmm. That's your beauty code word.
Fire comes forward, and she looks very beautiful in a hot way. Looking at all three women together now, you really notice that quality in their eyes, that more intense, fierce, dynamic quality that their eyes express. And you see at each case where their skin actually looks softer, even though type 3 women have the deepest and most texture in their skin. The clues, unfortunately, in the type 3 world don't always come across complimentary. There's a tendency to misprofile yourself as a type 3 woman because of some shameful experiences early in your life and throughout your life where you were told you were too much, too pushy, that you needed to settle down, calm down, that you just had too much energy for your parents and the environment you were in, and you catered to that. And so in an effort to still stay away from feeling bad about who you are, you'll mistype yourself. Yeah, I see more type 3 women will mistype themselves for that early reference to who they were being a bad thing. But using these tools, it's so clear. And every time I've been able to assist a type 3 woman correct her profiling mistake, she has a type 3 face. Mm-hmm. I've helped hundreds of type 3 women see their true self based on looking at their picture.
What was tripping them up? Was it mostly like the emotional wounding, or was it something that in their type 3 were they swiftly looking through it?
Or I think maybe there's a stereotype to think that, you're going to be running a company or you're going to be this sort of go-getter to such a degree. It may just be how you load the dishwasher or sweep a floor. See, it's not about accomplishments. It's about the movement you express in your day-to-day experiences. That doesn't mean you have to have accomplished a certain degree of success. I think that's a real misperception.
Or love hiking in the outdoors.
Yeah, there might be, I'm not an athletic person or I'm not outdoorsy. And it's like, well, but you're physical. And maybe you need to get that going in your life. Yeah. Maybe you need to go for a walk out out in nature, go for a hike, that you're missing that and you don't know it. And so what are you telling yourself? And are you trying to convince yourself you're another type?
Yeah,
because you're trying to stay away from those hurtful feelings. Well, I got plenty of stuff that's going to help you heal those hurtful feelings. A type 3 face is very obvious. Trust it. If you're seeing in that, don't overshadow it with other considerations saying, but in my personality, I'm so calm. I recently helped a type 3 woman, and I said, why did you think you were a type 2? Well, because I'm nice. I'm like, every type can be nice and every type can be rude. It's
Yes,
not
true.
about that. But see, she had some
Yeah.
old wounding she
Yeah.
needed to look at, and she was avoiding it because those feelings hurt when she was younger, and she didn't want that to be who she was.
Mhm.
And this is just energy. You choose to do whatever you
Yeah,
do
that's
with
right.
it.
I'd love to hear from a type 3 woman who thought they were a different type, but then looking at your face, you knew, because your face doesn't lie. And you're like, okay, yes, I am a type 3. And what was that process like? And what helped you identify through face profiling that you were a type 3?
And let's hear from some women that knew they were a type 3
Yes.
immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And
You
said,
can't deny
well,
that. They have.
hello.
Look how I get out of my bed in the morning.
There's no, like, well, really? Maybe I could have never. We have the joke in the type 3 world of, we have some of the best, I'll let you Google what RBF stands for, but it's just, you're like, people come up to you and say, smile, or what are you angry about? And you're like, well, I was just figuring out which oranges to buy. And I wasn't angry. So trust what your face is telling you and embrace your type 3 energy if this is you.